Everybody, welcome back to another fun and exciting geometry class. Today, what we are going to be doing is we are going to be on page 165, and we are going to be dividing this line that you see here into equal parts. Okay, we're going to be doing it without the use of a ruler. Sure, we could just measure it and then divide that but what we want to do is we want to cut this line without a ruler into equal parts. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, the first thing that we're going to need to do in this case is we are going to need to have um, another line up here. We can't do it without another line and an angle line. And it doesn't matter where your line is. You're going to want it to have just a little bit of an angle on it. Now, one thing that you should be thinking right here is you should be thinking maybe like the idea of a transversal. So if we had a parallel line up here, then we would have a transversal right there. And so that's kind of the idea. It's a little bit different, but that's the idea of what we're going for right here. The other thing that you should be thinking is how are we going to get lines, if you will, that basically cut this. Now, those lines are not the lines that we're going to use, but this is kind of the idea. This is kind of what we're going for right here. We're trying to find lines that we can put there that can cut it into, we want 4 parts. Okay, we're going to cut it into 4 parts. And we could cut it into any number of parts that we wanted to, but for this one, we just chose 4. Okay, so we'll call this up here, we'll call this point K. So what we want to do is we want to take our compass and we want to divide this line, okay, this angle, if you will, into 4 parts, 4 equal parts. So what do I mean? Well, what I'm not saying is that you have to measure it out and this be the endpoint. In other words, the end of K is not necessarily your endpoint. You're just dividing them into 4 equal parts. So here's what I mean. Let's lock the compass in and let's put a mark here at this right here. Now I'm going to move the compass to the next spot and I'm going to make another mark. Okay, so now we have it divided into 2 equal parts. I'll move it one more time. Now we have it divided into 3 equal parts, and here's the last time, and now we have this line divided into 4 equal parts. In other words, now our line stops here at this last point. So we'll call this point F. Okay, so it stops at F. Call this one E. We'll call this one D, and we'll call this one C. Okay, so this is 1 piece, this is 2 pieces, this is 3 pieces, and this is 4 pieces. All of those pieces are equal. That's what we wanted to do. The end of where K ends, it's not important. Okay, what's important is we made 4 equal sections. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to connect F to B. You want to connect F to B. So come up here to F, and I'll change this color so that you can see it a little bit better. So we'll go up here to F, and I'll put my marker on F, and I am going to connect B to F. Okay. Now what we have is a triangle. You can see a triangle formed. The other thing that you can't do is you can't just say, well, I'm just going to connect this somewhere. No, you don't know where to connect it yet. Okay, you don't know if it goes down here. You don't know where it goes. So we can't do that quite yet. Okay, so let's recreate the angle here at F. So let's lock this in and let's draw our arc right here. Okay, so there's our arc. Now we want to take that arc, we want to take that angle and put it at E as well. Now, not only do we want it at E, we also want it, where else do you think we want it? We want it at D. And we also want it at C. In other words, we want that same angle on all of the different actually D didn't really go good for me. Let me finish D there. There we go. This the, if you've ever used this program, it's great and I love it, but it is a little bit hateful at the same time because it likes to just like spin around on you. But as they say, it is what it is. Okay, it is what I have to work with, and it's a good little program. It works. It works for me. Okay. All right. So now we have our angle, our arcs. We don't have our angle recreated yet, but we have our arcs recreated. So let me change the color here so you can see this next little piece. And now what I want to do is I want to measure this arc. Measure the arc. We're recreating the angles. That's what we're doing. Okay. So I'm going to lock that in and I'm going to put a mark there. I don't really need that mark, but I just put it there so that I had it. And I want to come over here and I want to put that same mark right there. All right. And then I want to come over here and I want to do the same thing at D. Oh, I'm going to have to extend that one a little bit. And then I have to come over here to C. And I want to do the same thing. All right, so let me extend this one just a little bit from what I had it. Lock that in there. All right, there we go. Yeah, I extended a little. It got a little crazy on me again, but that's fine. Okay. All right, so now we have our angles that we needed. Okay. In other words, we have our points. So I want to now take my straight edge and I'll come up here and I want to connect my straight edge to this point, the point E, with the X that we made. Now, I'm going to kind of skip this part on the video. I'm going to do one of them, then I'm going to skip it for the rest of them because this is a little bit painstaking. It just takes a little bit of time for me to get this in there. Now, we want to make sure that we do our best to get it right on so that when we draw our line, it's going to look good because we want it to be as close as possible. All right, so here's our line. And you can see that here's what should happen, okay, in a perfect world. Now, this is not the perfect world because this program is not the perfect program, but it's pretty good. What I should have is these red lines should be parallel to each other. Why? Because I created the same angle. So now when I come over here, I shouldn't actually have to fiddle with my straight edge too much because it should be parallel. So I should actually just be able to do this fairly quickly, okay? All right, and there we go. Now, how do I check to see if I did it right? Well, one way is you can bring over your compass and you can measure. So you're going to put it on this red line. We'll lock that in. We'll see how close we were. Hey, we're pretty close right there. We'll lock it in again here. Hey, we are pretty close right there as well. And there, I mean, we did pretty good with what we have to work with. All right. So that's the process. If you need to see it again, just rewind it. I'm not going to go back and review it, but you can review it. You can go back. Oh man, Mr. Steve, I missed something there. Well, just roll it back and watch it again. Make sure that you start with the F to B. That's the important piece, is that F to B. And then you just recreate that angle F. You recreate it at E, recreate it at D, and recreate it at C. Then you connect your lines through, and you should be good. Okay? All right, now let's go ahead and move along to 3.24, circumscribing a circle about a given triangle. Circumscribing a circle about a given triangle. This is construction 12, and it's on page 166. If you look down here, I have a triangle drawn on the screen. What we want to do is we want to use construction principles to draw a circle that makes this inscribed. In other words, we want to put the circle outside of this triangle. All right, well, how are we going to do that? Well, if you think back, hopefully you can remember when we learned how to do this. We didn't learn how to construct it, but we learned how to do it. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to go back to where it teaches us how to circumscribe a circle, and that is on page 109. Theorem 29, page 109 and 110, actually. And we need to make a circumcenter of this triangle. Well, how do we make a circumcenter? You have to remember back. You can go back in your book and review. Take bisectors of the sides, okay? So we're going to bisect each side of this triangle. So how do we do that? Well, you should remember the construction on how to do that, but if you don't, that's fine. So we'll go ahead and take our compass, and we want to bisect this side. So we'll start with this side here, and we'll bisect it so you go past halfway. We'll lock that in, and we'll make our little mark. Now we'll come back here and we'll do the same thing except for on the other side. Okay. And over here, do the same thing. Right there, that's where it's going to cross. And then up here is where the other one's going to cross. All right. I'll do each one of them in a different color so that you can kind of see the difference. But basically, we're going to just bisect each side. So I'm going to pause the video here, and I'm going to do it, and then we'll come back, and they'll all be bisected in different colors. Okay, so here are all of my markings, and now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and connect all of my X's. So I will do the same color that the X's are here for the lines, and that will help us to see what each one is. So let me get this first one on here so you can see it, and then I'll fast forward the video again so you don't have to watch me do all of them. All right, so let's put this one in red. Get rid of that. And we're going to go ahead, and that's our bisect. As you can see here, my center isn't perfect, and that's to be expected with this with the program online. It's not going to be just right, but it's pretty close. It's in here somewhere that our circumcenter is. Notice that the circumcenter is outside of the triangle, and that happens sometimes. If you look at the one in your book, the circumcenter is inside of the triangle, okay? But this one ends up being just outside of the triangle. So, yeah, that's fine. It doesn't matter. So let's go ahead and put our circle around there. So we'll go, whoops. Ahead and there we go. Grab that. And we want to put it somewhere here in the center. It's going to be off just a tiny little bit on this one just because it is. So we're close. All right. For me, I'm happy with that. Again, we're off just a little tiny bit. But if you look, we didn't touch right here. We basically touched on two of the sides and not on the third side. Yours should be a little bit closer than mine was because you are going to have yours a little bit more accurate because you're using an actual compass and a pencil. But yours are going to be off a little bit too. It's really hard to get these perfect. The only way you could really get these like perfect spot on is to actually use a computer with a program that was set up for doing this, and then you could get it like just spot on. But when you're using your instruments, it's going to be off just a little bit, and that's fine. That's fine for it to be off just a little bit. So there you go. That is circumscribing a circle about a given triangle. Bisect the sides, and then take your center point, and technically, I guess you really only had to bisect two of the sides because the other side's gonna meet in the same spot. So you really only need to bisect two of the sides. In this one, my three sides came out just a little bit different, and so that's why I did all three, and I kind of put it in the middle of them, and it got it fairly close. So, anyways, there you go. That is how to circumscribe a circle about a given triangle, and that is how to divide a line into equal parts. If you have any questions, make sure you rewind it, take a look at it. We'll see you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.